right now, let's talk to our friend Scott Shook. Scott Shook, you hear him do the stock market report every afternoon at 5:03 here on 103.7. He is a local broker with Scott and Stringfellow BB&T. He is an average golfer. But Scott is involved in everything in Greenville, and we're very proud of Scott because he, on Friday morning, was elected as the chairman of the North Carolina Community College System Board. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Good morning, Henry.
Chairman Shook.
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman Shook, do I have to?
Yes, you do.
Do I have to treat you with more respect now?
Yes, you do.
Congratulations.
I'm the chairman of the board.
Very proud of you for being the chairman of the board.
Thanks
How many members of the state board for community college?
There are 21 members, one member being a student representative that does not vote, so there are 20 voting members.
And am I right that student members from Pitt Community College? It was
Laquan Rogers.
Yeah.
He graduated from Pitt Community College on his way to East Carolina, and they have elected a replacement. She was in India or traveling in India, so he came for one more meeting last week, so it was always good to see Laquan. He represented Pitt County and Pitt Community College very well, and if you ever meet Laquan, you won't forget him.
Yeah. How about now the lieutenant governor sits on your board as well?
Lieutenant governor,
does that mean
state
you
treasurer.
outrank the lieutenant governor now?
I don't know about that, but I'm the only one with a hammer in the meeting. Let's put it that way. So.
Susan Nobles, our friend from Pitt Community College, just emailed and said there are 58 community colleges plus one research campus in Kannapolis, over 800,000 students. And by the way, she said, P.S., we're so proud to have Scott Shook as chairman of the state community college board. This might be a first for Pitt County to have somebody as a high ranking on a state board. I'm trying to think who we've had as chair of a state board in the past. I don't know if we've had anybody.
I don't know.
Yeah. Congratulations. Very, very nice honor. Now, tell us about the community college system and what your goals for 2015 and 16 are.
Well, Susan was right. There are 58 community colleges, 124 satellite locations that serve all 100 counties. We're within 30 minutes driving distance of any individual. That was the goal way back when it was established over 50 years ago. But the first order of business is a few things going on. We've got 8 appointments to the board this time with a couple reappointments. And recently, Jim Rose, one of our relatives, a son, I believe, that's working for you now. Jim Rose is appointed to the board.
He's producing this radio show as we speak.
Right. He's
Jake
doing
is
a great
in the
job
control room.
too. But Jim, who now lives in Raleigh but lived for a long time in Greenville and in and around this area, is on the board. And matter of fact, it's a great story about Jim, and you know this, Henry. He received his GED from Pitt Community College many years ago, and then 3 years later graduated from Wake Forest University. So to say Jim's passionate about community college is an understatement. So the first item of business for an organization is to establish committee structures and that type of thing. But the real order of the day is to get the search process underway to find us a new president.
Yes, Scott Rawl, who was formerly the president of Craven Community College and then moved on to become the president of the entire state system, has just taken a job in Washington, D.C., I believe.
Well, it's in Fairfax County, Virginia,
Right.
the Community College in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
His goal was always to stay for many years at the community college system and then move back to a community college campus, and that opportunity became available to him. And that's
a big one.
Yeah, it is. They don't have it. There's not as many colleges in Virginia, so their campuses are larger. But so he's excited to do that. He's moving on the 1st of September. So we have an interim, George Fouts, who's been around the community college system for over 40 years. Who's going to take the place, just kind of hold the fort down until we can get a new president in place.
One of the big issues with community colleges, funding is always a problem, and everybody's diving for dollars in Raleigh. The legislature is negotiating the budget right now. How do you see the funding issues? Are the community colleges? A lot of people think community colleges have gotten the short end of the stick for many, many years when it comes to the higher education budget. And then being on the university board. I'm not saying that. I want to say that out front, but
I say I'm glad you said that, Henry.
But I mean, let's be honest. Community colleges have become very, very important in today's world because not only are you educating kids that are going on to finish their college degree on 4-year schools, but you're also doing so much technical training that people are leaving with a skill that they can go out and make a very good living these days.
Well, that's correct. And what happens, our funding is based on our enrollment, and enrollment has fallen in the last couple of years. Of course, in the recession, and when recessions kick in, our enrollment goes up, and we had a big spike in enrollment a few years ago, as you can well imagine, after the 2008, 2009 recession. And so after that enrollment spike, what happens, enrollment starts to drop. Well, those folks are actually back out into the workforce, the vast majority of them, and working, paying taxes and that type of thing. But where we're stretched, in community college instructors, okay, the average instructor teaches 5 to 6 classes a semester, okay? And in many of these technical courses, welding, nursing, and things of that nature, not only, those are areas that, the governor talks and legislators talk about a skills gap. And in that, and so they're trying to teach folks to come up and then get into the workforce. Well, the problem is we're not paying them enough to adequately compensate their time for what they could get in the private sector. So they end up taking jobs as nurses and as welders and that type of thing. And it's hard to replace that type and retain that type of talent statewide, but especially in the rural communities where it's so needed. So, if we could say one of the two areas, one of the biggest things would be the paid instructors, and the other would be funding for year-round classes. I mean, traditionally, we haven't funded year-round. You've only funded 2 semesters, and the big push to fund for year-round, because if somebody's waiting to get a certificate or something to get a job, why do we make them wait through the summer until the next semester? We're foregoing almost a year by that process. So, that helps with funding just because we're open more days and people are paying more. But those are 2 major areas. Now, obviously, there are more than that, but those are our hot button issues this year.
There are some people that believe that community colleges should be allowed to offer 4-year degrees. I don't, but, I think that there are, that's a little bit of a growing pitch in the state of North Carolina. What's your view on that?
Well, first of all, I don't think that the community college system needs to get involved in the arms race, which is higher education in the state of North Carolina. I think we focus on things that we do very well, and we can do it efficiently. That being said, in certain areas such as nursing, the accreditation levels at certain hospitals are saying, hey, if you want certain reimbursements and funding, you have to hire X amount of nurses that have a 4-year degree. So that's the push in a lot of these areas, is to develop that. And, we actually have a committee that's studying that process of what that would look like. Does it make sense? But we're a ways from even, finding out what that study, what that committee comes up with. But just to say, yes, we need to offer 4-year degrees, I'm not in favor of that personally. I don't speak for all the board members on that. But because I think there's some things that we do specifically very well and we can do very efficiently. And I think that those are the things we need to focus on.
Yeah, we have 16 university campuses across the state of North Carolina. That's a lot. And we're trying to fund them at 4 years.
That's right.
And the legislature's having trouble, coming up with the money for 16 campuses.
And as soon as you go from associate degree to a 4-year institution, there's accreditation issues that you have to deal with, and it's a whole different level of faculty that you have to hire, and that's a cost that I think is that we simply don't know the answer, what it would take for us to go that, and just in the area of nursing. So we'll find out where that ends up. But I think truly we're better when we focus on what we do best.
And we have a great community college system. We've got one of the best in the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Another controversial thing that came up this year, it's been discussed in years past, but somebody in the Senate has put in a bill that in this budget coming up, they want to defund driver's education on high school campuses and just offer driver's education on our community college campuses. What's your view of that?
Well, that's a complex issue, and that came out of left field, as you well know, and I can understand what the Senate is trying to do, is to take the funding out of the highway fund. That's fine. They've asked if the Senate budget passes, what they've asked the community college system to do is to do a feasibility study on being able to start a driver's ed program July 1st of next year. Well, that's not a feasibility study in our eyes, that's more of an implementation study. And the state board took a vote on Friday to say, we're open to studying this further and to see the implications of this, but in less than a year, I don't think we're nowhere near that. Not only do you have to develop a curriculum, you have to hire people, you have to buy cars, you have to get the signs on top, you have to get the gory videos and all this other kind of stuff. We don't know anything about running a driver's ed program at this point in time, and to say that we can go live within a year, I just don't see, and especially there's no funding that accompanies it. So that's tough. I mean, we're open to looking at it, but implementation by next year would be something that the state board at this point in time doesn't support.
It seems to me, I haven't really studied it like you have, but it seems to me that with driver's education, if it's offered in the high schools, first of all, it's much more of a convenient place to offer it for students rather than them having, because in some counties there is not a community college.
We're within 30 minutes drive of every county, but that's certainly not as close as a lot of
But
high
I mean,
schools.
think about somebody that lives that lives 30 minutes away from a campus. The parent has to get them there for the driver's ed on a day-to-day basis, because driver's ed is an everyday thing, as I recall, for a period of a month or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you have a bunch of high school teachers that supplement their income during the summers by being, and other times of the year by being driver's education teachers. So I'm not sure what the motivation behind that is, but it seems like it's a pretty large diversion from what we're used to in driver's ed in North Carolina.
Where some of that may have come from is, the community college system does motorcycle safety. So, I don't know maybe it's because we do everything so great. They love us so much. They want to give us more responsibility, and we thank them for that. But, I don't know. We're open to studying this to see the feasibility of actually doing it. Being able to implement it at the beginning of next year with no funding, I don't think is something that we can do.
Scott Shook, the chairman of the North Carolina Community College System Board. What are your goals for your administration now as you move into the chairman's job?
Well, first and foremost is we need to find a replacement for Scott Rawls. Scott has been a tremendous asset to the people of the state of North Carolina. He's going to be hard to replace because I think he does three critical things very well. Number one, people in the office up there love to work for him. So, he's a good leader, effective leader, and employees generally want to do a good job for him. Number two, he can take off and walk down the street, go into the General Assembly building or go to the governor's office, and people genuinely want to talk to him. So they're open to that. That's not always the case with every governmental agency, but Scott, certainly it's hard to find somebody over there that doesn't agree with him or like him. But the third thing is, he's truly a visionary in education and where the future of education is going. Traditionally we've been paid on seat time. How many hours somebody sits in a seat, that's how you get funding. That's how education's handled. There's a move towards competency-based education, so maybe you pay for the time that you're there and you can work at your own pace. How does that affect community colleges, and how does that affect education? Scott is really a visionary when it comes to those types of things, and it's gonna be hard to replace somebody that can do all three. But we're gonna do a nationwide search. First thing we have to do is hire a search firm to get that process started. Hopefully by the beginning of July of next year, we'll have somebody in place up and running. So that's number one. Number two is increase our standing, we believe, and funding levels and things with the General Assembly. And we've got a lot of new members that have come on board, I think, that add new energy, and we're excited. It's a good group of people, and when we first were around each other on Friday and on Thursday last week, you can tell right away that we'll get along fine, and the state of education at community college level is going to be in good shape.
Was the vote unanimous for you to be chairman?
Yes.
It was. How well have they gotten to know you up there? They know you pretty well so far, you think? Or do they know about your golf game?
Some. They know some. Great staff with the community college system, and it's been a joy to work with. You learn a lot in 2 years that I've been up there, and so we've tackled a lot of issues, and they're great to work with and good people, and it's been a pleasure so far, and look forward to years to come. So.
I will say this: 6 to 8 months ago, people in Raleigh that work for the system, for the community college system, that I would see in different meetings in Raleigh and Chapel Hill would say to me, please encourage Scott Shook to run for chairman. I mean, they wanted you to run for chairman. There were I will say that it wasn't your idea, that there were people who drafted you to run for chairman of the community college system.
It's interesting because I talk to people at the university system. They say the same thing about you.
You know what my response is? If elected, I will not serve. but anyway, I do believe that you'll be a terrific chairman.
Thanks, Mark.
And I'm proud of you, and it's good to have one of our Eastern North Carolina folks in such a high position running the community college system. Are you concerned that since you're going to be, your year as chairman. Is it a 1 year or 2 year term?
2 year term.
2 year term. Your first year is going to be pretty much without a president of the system while you're looking for a new president. Is that going to put extra pressure on you, you think?
Well, we'll find out. I think George Fouts is going to be excellent in that role. He's actually served as interim at a few different colleges, so he stepped in this role and has done this before. But the staff up there, Jennifer Haygood, Executive Vice President, and quite a few others that help staff the board are incredible leaders, and they have their hand on what's going on. Now, they're stretched, obviously, and I don't think they realize how much they're going to be stretched until Scott actually leaves. But so that's why we're interested in getting this process going as fast as possible.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, buddy. Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Scott Shook, chairman of the State Community College System.